Segregated by social convention, Titanic's first-class passengers, in their tuxedos and evening gowns, lived in a different world than the third-class passengers several decks below, hoping to find prosperity and a new life in the new world. What they had in common, apart from a belief that they were traveling on the world's first unsinkable ship, was that most of them had not long to live. After leaving Southampton, England, Titanic made stops in France and Ireland before setting off for the maiden journey's ultimate destination, New York. 4 days into the crossing, and shortly before midnight, the largest ship in the world hit an iceberg.
I had just reached my berth when I heard a dull thud, like a collision. That's extraordinary, I thought, and went up to see. Upstairs I met a friend who laughingly said we had struck an iceberg, and we went on deck, and the ice was falling on us. The passengers came on deck, some in pajamas and some in evening gowns. They were not yet much alarmed. I then for the first time saw she was listing, and that all the people were putting on life belts. And for the first time, it looked serious. I would not believe it, knowing that the Titanic was such a safe boat. Finally, I realized the seriousness of the thing. I went inside, threw off my dress suit, put on my warmest clothes, and my steward, a very nice fellow, helped me to put on my life preserver. I never saw him again.
Between passengers and crew, Titanic carried more than 2,200 people. Its lifeboats had room for less than half that number. Many passengers were skeptical about how much damage the ship had suffered. But while the ship's orchestra continued to play, crew members started loading women and children into lifeboats.
So it was a question as who was there in time to get into one of the all too few lifeboats. Well, they weren't launched very quickly, because at first no one thought anything was going to happen. But my father went away and spoke to an officer, and he said, they are going to launch lifeboats, but you'll all be back on board for breakfast. There wasn't any panic until the lifeboats left, and then there was panic galore. We were down on the ocean. We could hear them running about on the decks and screaming. You can imagine people came up from their cabin, went onto the deck, no lifeboat, tearing around the other side. That's when the panic was there.
1,517 people drowned or died of hypothermia. 710 survivors were plucked from the sea a few hours later as the sun was rising. As the shocking news traveled the world, the owners of Titanic chartered the Halifax cable ship Mackie Bennett to retrieve bodies. Embalming supplies on the ship were quickly exhausted. Halifax became a funeral home. A curling rink served as a temporary morgue, and undertakers came to the city from all over eastern Canada to help. Some bodies were shipped to their hometowns, but many were buried in 3 Halifax cemeteries.
But the most dreadful sound of all is the sound of people drowning, the screams.